Wow. The boos from the Mexico fans at the end of this game were heard everywhere in the stadium and on the TV broadcast. And while I understand the frustration from fans in Torreon who were wanting to see the Mexico national team win this game, I do think some aspects of the boos were justified. However, I also think the boos were too harsh by the fans in other aspects. With that, let's analyze this game. Andres from AA Sports. The Mexico national team played versus Uruguay in Torreon in their first of two games this month. It was a special game for the team as not only was it being played in Mexico in the stadium of Santos Laguna, but it was also the team's first game playing in their new home jersey that they will use for the 2026 World Cup, and I think it looks great on the players. With that, this was a game that the team took very seriously, and they definitely wanted to get a good result, unlike the last time they played versus Uruguay in the summer of 2024. This time in 2025, the game ends in a 0-0 draw, and while it is definitely better than losing 4-0 like the last time, it does feel like a missed opportunity to win. While Uruguay were without Valverde and Darwin Núñez, the rest of the main team for Uruguay was on the roster for this game. However, Uruguay head coach Marcelo Bielsa made a surprising decision to not start his best 11, leaving Ronald Araujo on the bench. And it was very clear that they missed having Araujo on the field, as in many moments in this game, especially in the first half, Uruguay's defense looked very shaky. Uruguay's shaky defense, along with Mexico having most of the ball possession, gave Mexico the opportunity to potentially punish Marcelo Bielsa and his team for not playing their best possible 11, while Mexico played many of their best players. However, a slow and way too conservative style of play, once again having a lack of creativity offensively, particularly in the winger positions, resulted in Mexico being unable to create many scoring chances and being unable to get a goal despite playing like the better team. Meanwhile, Uruguay did not create many chances either, resulting in an underwhelming matchup ending in a stalemate. Final score, 0-0, a draw without any goals scored. Here are Mexico's performance grades for this game. Goalkeeper, B. Tala Rangel was the starting goalkeeper for this game, and it was a bit surprising to see him start and be trusted to play in this game, given that he conceded 4 goals in an awful performance against Uruguay last year. Fortunately for Rangel, that did not happen again in this game. He made 2 saves, one where he caught the ball on a free kick, and the other where he did make a shaky error in batting the ball back towards the center of the box. Fortunately, there was not another Uruguayan player there to recover the ball and take a shot, but still not ideal. Outside of that, I thought he went through the motions well, despite not being tested at all for the rest of the game. This is where I do think the boos from the fans was too harsh. Tala was being booed practically every time he touched the ball in this game. This was likely because the fans in Torreon would have liked to see either Malagon or Acevedo play, and more so want to see Acevedo play because he does play for the local club, Santos Laguna. However, Aguirre made the decision to start Rangel. Rangel did not have any major errors like we have seen from him in the past, and therefore this did not end up being a major mistake by Aguirre as the head coach. With that, while I still would rather call up Guillermo Ochoa over Tala Rangel, and I am not convinced that Rangel is good enough to be part of this team in the long term, I will be fair and say Rangel did not deserve to be booed tonight. I'll say the same thing when it comes to the center backs, who I am giving an A- grade to. If any boos from the fans were directed at them, they were definitely not justified. Granted, Uruguay was playing without Valverde and Darwin Núñez, but come the start of the game, you play against the team that shows up on the field, and Montes and Vasquez played well against the team they faced tonight. Johan Vasquez handled his assignments without any major errors, and his ability to pick out passes from the back line was on full display. So once again, another great game from Johan. As for Montes, who played as the last man defender, He did very well closing down opponents the moment they received the ball, and his defending in open space was very solid. He did have one moment in the final minutes with Maxi Araujo, where it did look like it was a penalty for Uruguay, but no penalty call was given. Montes had luck on his side there. He then ended up getting a yellow card as he and Maxi Araujo's their frustrations began to boil over, and they got into a bit of a fight that Johan quickly intervened in. Very unfortunate to see given Montes was playing so well. The center backs overall had a great performance. Just look for Montes to try to have a bit of a cooler level head going forward. Fullbacks, B. Israel Reyes was the starting right back while Gallardo was the starting left back. Reyes was rarely tested on the right side, mainly because Uruguay's offense was not good in this game, but also because he was covering Brian Rodriguez very well in this game. And with that, they did not want to try to force a pass to Brian and potentially lose ball possession. As for Jesus Gallardo, if there were any boos from the fans directed at him, well, I don't think they were justified for his performance defensively. I think they were fair in terms of his performance offensively. I thought the first half for him was definitely better than the second half. While he was good defensively, he again was very quiet when pushing up in attempts to contribute offensively, and even more so in the second half. He did not provide much of any good services, so offensively he really did not make a significant impact in the game. I would have rather seen Mateo Chavez start. In his handful of games so far, he has looked much better on both sides of the ball. Midfielders, B. Marcel Ruiz, Edson Alvarez, and Eric Sanchez were the starting midfielders in the game. Ruiz was arguably the best midfielder in the first half. His passing accuracy was great and his dribbling skills were solid. Edson Alvarez did well in his traditional role as a defensive midfielder, constantly recovering the ball when Uruguay would lose possession as they tried to enter the attacking third. The one issue I saw from Edson Alvarez in this game were clumsy tackles that resulted in fouls and potentially dangerous free kicks and set plays. Fortunately for Mexico, Uruguay's offense was abysmal in this game, but still not ideal and something Edson will need to look to improve on. Eric Lira came in as a substitute for Edson in the 65th minute, and I thought he did well filling in as the defensive midfielder for the rest of the game. As for Chiquito Sanchez, I thought he was easily the worst midfielder in this game. Despite ending in a 0-0 draw, this was still a very physical game, and these types of hard-fought physical duels are not his style of play. And in this game, he looked out of his element and got physically outplayed. I think it would have been better if either Obed Vargas or Fidel Ambriz started instead. As for Obed Vargas, I thought he was one of the best substitute players in this game. His dribbling and ball skills looked very good. Orbelin Pineda came in as a substitute alongside him, and while his passing was good, he was not able to push up and create plays offensively. Pineda, in my opinion, just went through the motions without successfully making an impact in the game. And lastly, 17-year-old Gilberto Mora, arguably Mexico's top prospect right now. As the attacking midfielder, I thought he was easily the best midfielder in the game. His passing, some of the moves he made to maintain possession of the ball, and offensively, he was one of just two players who was constantly trying and being able to create opportunities in this game. He even had one opportunity where he took the shot with his left foot, but it unfortunately went wide. Overall, though, I thought his performance was great, and honestly, he should 100% be a starter for the team now. Wingers, D. I don't ever want to see Piojo Alvarado start for the national team again. He was easily the worst player on the field for Mexico, and he could not provide a single good cross into the box or good shot on target. One that will actually test the goalkeeper to save his life. There was a moment in the second half where he had the ball on the right side outside of the box, and he absolutely sailed it out of bounds for an Uruguay goal kick. There is absolutely zero offensive creativity from him as the starting winger, and this has been a problem with him over the last 2 years. He was horrid during the Gold Cup, and was horrid in this game. Not only should he have not been starting, he should not be called up anymore. He definitely deserved to get booed tonight by the fans. Diego Lainez also deserved the boos from the fans tonight. He came into the game for the final 10 minutes, replacing Alvarado, and was a ghost, completely non-existent. While Lainez doesn't make massive mistakes that make him a liability, he is definitely not a solution. He's been given another chance, but has produced little to show for it and should not be called up going forward. It would have been better if Rubalcaba had played, but for some reason, he was left on the bench. As for Chucky Lozano, he did have a couple of good moments, but nothing incredible like we have seen from him in the past. At least he was better than Piojo in his 44 minutes of play before being subbed off for Gilberto Mora due to injury. You hate to see that for Lozano. It will probably be the end of his November window with the national team. Hopefully he has a quick recovery and he is able to be that important player for San Diego in their playoff campaign. Strikers, B-. As expected, Raul Jimenez was the starting striker in this game and was one of the two best offensive players on the field, along with Mora. He had a couple of really close opportunities, but unfortunately the finishing shots were not good enough. Overall, though, he was still trying to be active offensively and create plays, but outside of Gilberto Mora, who was getting fouled a lot in this game, he had no help. Berterame entered the game as a substitute to replace Raul, and like Lainez, who entered the game alongside him, Berterame was a ghost on the field. He had a non-existent performance. It is very clear that Raul is the best striker Mexico has right now, and we are unsure about Hormiga Gonzalez because he was not given the opportunity to play in this game. It probably would have been better to have Hormiga and Raul play together in this game. Meanwhile, based on what I have seen so far, I don't think Germán Berterame fits in Aguirre's system, and after tonight, I don't see him making the World Cup over players like Raul, Santi, and Quiñones. Head coach, C+. Javier Aguirre made some decisions that should be applauded by the fans, and he also made questionable decisions where the fans are justified to boo him. Aguirre starting Rangel over Malagón or Acevedo was definitely a risk, but this time it did not end up being a mistake. Aguirre having Gilberto Mora as his first substitution was both a good and bad decision. It was good because it shows he's willing to trust his young players, unlike past coaches, but it was also bad because it probably would have been better to start him in this game for a more creative midfield. His decision to start Ruiz and have Ober Vargas replace him in the second half, I thought was good. And once again, the defense was not a problem under Aguirre's system, even though most of us would rather see Mateo Chavez at left back. The problem once again was the lack of offensive creativity and scoring opportunities produced, and the substitutions he made in the offensive front were not good. While Edson did have a yellow card in the game, why are you going to make a defensive substitution when your team is playing better and has the majority of ball possession? Why put in Lira instead of making an offensive substitution to go and try and score? Why are you giving another chance to Piojo Alvarado when his poor form is the reason why you didn't call him up in October? And all this did was make it where in the final 20 minutes of the game, Mexico was passing the ball from the center backs to the midfielders and then out wide and then back to the defense again and just holding ball possession. It was completely dead football offensively. This feels the same way as it did in the group stage of the Gold Cup, where there were clearly better players on the bench, but he wouldn't play them. He was reluctant to do so for an unknown and unpredictable reason. It feels identical to that, where it's as if Aguirre is trying, it's as if Aguirre is playing too conservative because he's trying too hard not to show his cards when everyone clearly knows his cards and aces. They're not players like freaking Piojo Alvarado. When Mora entered the game at the end of the first half, Uruguay immediately made two substitutions in the second half. One of them being Nandes, who was trying to defend against Mora all game. Why? Because they know the aces Aguirre has that he's trying too hard to hide like he is in the Gold Cup. Like, are you serious? Is Luis de la Fuente leaving Lamine Yamal on the bench because he's trying too hard not to, para no mostrar las tarjetitas that Spain has? No! He's already a prominent starter, and they are constantly giving Lamine Yamal significant minutes that he will develop and prepare him for the long term. These are the big games against tough opponents that are supposed to elevate the level of the team, and Mexico doesn't get these games often. Play your best players! Play your young players and start preparing them for 2026 and the long term. And look, while I do think that this was not Aguirre's best game as the head coach, by no means do I believe Aguirre should be fired, like some fans in the stadium were shouting, because he is overall doing a lot of things right, and it's why he is a nominee for FIFA's Men's Best Coach of the Year award. He is playing the newer, younger players and giving just about everyone playing time and opportunities. And the defense has never been a problem outside of Jorge Sanchez, who was not called up. I just wish he would do that more and adjust the style of play to try and address the lack of creativity offensively. His defensive style of play is for the most part preventing Mexico from losing games. However, in order to win games, the team also needs to be able to score goals. That's what's lacking right now, and that's what Aguirre must look to improve on with the team. Look for him and assistant coach Rafa Marquez to continue to try and address the needs offensively. All right, now on to the final bonus grading category, the referees for this game. F. The Televisa broadcast showed the VAR booth right before the kickoff as they showed who the referees for the game were. And I'll say this, if there actually was VAR for this game, this makes the bad officiating during the game look even worse. The officiating in this game was awful on both sides. That foul by Nandes on Gilberto Mora, where Nandes kicked him in the back of his leg on his calf muscle, should have been a red card without a doubt. He made zero effort to play the ball and just completely took out Mora on that play. In the last minutes of the game, Maxi Araujo had a counterattack where it looked like Cesar Montes tripped Araujo in the box. That should have been a penalty for Uruguay in my opinion. Mexico got lucky that it was not called that way. And Jose Maria Jimenez also elbowed Orbelin in the head and only received a yellow card. I get that Latin American football, especially in the CONMEBOL region, is very physical, but these are obvious calls for both teams that were missed, and the fact that they were not even reviewed by VAR makes it even worse. The referees were horrendous tonight, and I hope none of the referees for this game end up officiating in the World Cup. I do not trust that they will make the correct calls consistently after this game. Final score, a 0-0 draw between Mexico and Uruguay in Torreon. And for an overall team grade, I will give Mexico a B-. This result was a lot better than losing 4-0 like they did versus Uruguay last year. The defense again kept a clean sheet, and both Mora and Vargas looked like players with very bright futures. However, with how the game unfolded, with Mexico actually looking like the better team, but struggling to produce offensively, while also playing too conservatively, it results in a draw that in some ways feels like a missed opportunity to win for Mexico. The next game will be on Tuesday versus Paraguay in the Alamo Dome in Texas, where Mexico will look to end 2025 with their first win in their new home jerseys. Andres de AA Sports, that will be all for this video. Leave your opinions on the game in the comments. It was their first game in their new home jersey that they will use in the World Cup, and it looks incredible. I plan to make a special video reviewing Mexico's jersey soon. With that, leave a like and subscribe to support my channel and stay informed on all the videos I post covering Mexican football. With that, thanks for watching and listening. Viva Mexico!